Good afternoon, guys. I'm Chris, and welcome back to this Wednesday's episode of Rift Amps. Prosonic is up and running on the bench. It's had quite a bit of work inside. Full recap, as we know, back to the original values. I've made permanent all of the mods that he had on the board, tidied up some of the wiring around the output stage, and you can see it's now running on the bench. Beautiful sine wave. 20 volts into 8 ohms, which puts us at bang on 50 watts. So that's great. Really happy with the way this thing's turned out. Reverb's running great. Do you remember he's modified it for KT66s? Spoke to the customer on the phone, tried to get a bit more of an understanding about the channel switching, you know, why the drive channel doesn't work. Well, apparently someone else had damaged one of the channel switching relays, and rather than pull the board out and replace it, they tried to tack in lots of different components to try and get it to work. Obviously it hasn't, which is a shame. To fix it properly, I will have to pull the board and replace everything properly. We're probably talking, including testing, another 2 hours labour. And as it's the least important thing to him in terms of his priority list, we've decided against that for the time being, although I am waiting for him, as we currently talk, to call me back so I can tell him what he currently owes me for the work at the moment, and whether he might decide, actually, no, let's go ahead, let's pull the board out and get that working whilst it's here. It's up to him. But, you know, I can't spend his money for him, so it is his decision. But the Prosonic's done and up and running, which is great news. Not really much else to talk about, but in terms of, it's actually super noise-free. It really is. It's very quiet. And it just does that big, powerful clean, which, yeah, makes it a really useful amplifier. Now, this was a combo originally. It's got onboard reverb, but the customer has converted it into a head cabinet. So my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the heads didn't have reverb, the combos did, but he's now made this one, a reverb model, into a head. Oh, I tell you what, it's cold today. Whew. It's quite early in the morning. The heating has yet to come up, and it is miserable outside. So for all fans of the weather update, I'm telling you now, it's grey, cold, miserable. I think the rain's going to get even worse today. So, thankfully, I'm inside. Right, next one in the repair queue, and this is Gavin's amp. So, Gavin, we finally got to you. Thank you for watching. He sent to me an A4 sheet of paper, alongside his amplifier, of course, that says, "Read me first. Hi Chris, thanks for agreeing to look at my Fender Deluxe Reverb reissue as per our chat over email. Apologies it's taken a few weeks to get to you. Work has been crazy and wanted to make sure they only shipped it on a Monday or Tuesday so it wouldn't sit anywhere over the weekend." That is a really good tip. Do not ship your amplifiers or chassis or anything on a Friday unless you've booked for a Saturday delivery. Otherwise they will sit in a warehouse for that entire weekend, and boxes get put on other boxes and all sorts. And it doesn't matter which courier it is or which service you use, some temp worker in that warehouse is going to make a mistake. So always ship next day delivery, but never on a Friday. You can send on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday, but never ship on a Friday, because it won't arrive until at least the Monday, and that increases the chance of something happening to your shipment. He says, as I mentioned in the email, I'd like to get the amp to the best version it can be and get it to a place where it can be reliable for a good decade or so and be a bit quieter whilst doing it. I really want this to be my main gigging amp, so happy to put in a reasonable amount of hours to get this thing in a good place. I was thinking of starting with replace the filter caps. I have included a set of F&Ts. Move the heater wires from quick connects directly to the valve sockets. No problem, we can do that. Move all the relevant resistors from the circuit board to the valve sockets as well. Upgrade the vibrato channel volume path to shielded wire and replace current signal paths through the board. Okay, so rather than running the signal path through the PCB, we're going to have shielded wire to and from. It'll be from the inputs and from the volume pot directly over the board to the valve sockets themselves. He would like me to remove the bright cap He also says replace any resistors that have a bit of marginal power rating with higher rated ones and lift off the board slightly. Yep, we can do that, no problem. As a rough rule of thumb for amplifier design, you calculate using Joule's law the minimum wattage for the resistor you need. And as I said, rule of thumb is you double rate. So if you calculate that there's half a watt of dissipation going on in that particular resistor, you double rate for half a watt. If you calculate there's half a watt going on, you put a 1 watt in there. That's your rule of thumb. For really high power resistors, cathode resistors in power valves, for example, you may even triple rate or quadruple rate if required. I bought this used and don't know its history. So I have included a new set of 6v6s, so it will need biasing. He says, I'm not sure if the power transformer can be rewired for 240 volt. I think they can on these, but that might be useful just to cool things down. Yep, if it's possible to do it on this, I will be doing that. And he also says, check and tighten any and all hardware. Obviously. Happy to defer to your judgment here. I've already replaced the speaker and upgraded the speaker cable. Still need to do the reverb cables, so all good there, I think. But if there are any other basics I've missed or improvements that you would recommend based on your experience, happy to hear those. There are also a couple of other issues that might need looking at. There is a whoosh of white noise on power up that then fades. The tremolo seems to be really noisy with a crazy level of whump, whump, whump. Yep, we all know that one. It sounds like the soundtrack to a Vietnam War film. So if it's possible to do anything there, that would also be amazing. I've removed all the valves and marked their original positions on the boxes. I've also included a new preamp valve. I predominantly used the vibrato channel, so I intended this for V2, a new valve for the reverb, and a new rectifier valve. Thanks, Gavin. Well, see? Detail. Excellent. Nothing worse, well, I'm sure there is in the world, but a really annoying thing is when an amp arrives in a box with no notes, so I don't know who it's from, I don't know what I'm doing with it. Right, okay. Let's get this thing unpacked. I might stick the box on the floor and put it on the bench, so bear with me. He's packed this really well. I've got to be really careful here because there's lots of things with his name on, so don't look. Inside here we have, this is his box of valves, and also he's included his F&Ts. So Johan will be pleased, we now have stock. Okay, we've got a GZ34JJ, we've got an unbranded box, another JJ 6v6. So in this box is all of his valves that he's included and his valve shield. So we'll be able to go through that. No worries whatsoever. I haven't revealed his details, have I? No, we're good. Right, what else have we got in here then? That's his foot switch with a TRS on the end. Here's the chassis. I mean, he's packed this really well, so fair play to you, Gavin. I appreciate that. Also, I'm going to say this now. Gavin has been the perfect customer. When we originally spoke by email, I said, as with anything, it goes in the queue until I get to it. And he's been very patient and he hasn't bugged me. And I really appreciate that. Because now I'm onto this and I've got dedicated time to work on it without rushing it or without feeling rushed, without any pressure. He wants me to do the job properly. He will do. Mains cable, lovely moulded plug, proper 5 amp fuse, which is what you want. No splits in it, it's not damaged, properly strain relieved on the chassis. All good to see. Oh, speaking of which, I've got to renew my pat testing. So I've got to go on a 1-day pat testing course again. To renew my competency. If they let me film that, I will bring my camera. But I doubt they will. Okay, so we've got a black panel. Deluxe reverb reissue. See, look, he's even put, and this is the right way of doing it, piece of cardboard over the chassis opening when you ship. Lovely. Okay, so we have, as you can see, the PCB Deluxe reverb reissue. And on first inspection, it's pretty clean indeed. So that's what we've got there. Anything else I can see? No. Let's just pull the doghouse. Okay, so there's your filter board. Hopefully that's coming across on camera. If I step back, it might focus on it. We've got the ICs. None of them are physically leaking, nor can I see any bulges in them. The droppers don't show any sign of overheating. That's good. I think they're all the correct values. So they should all be original. But as I said, he wants me to upgrade to his F&Ts. Happy to do that, no problem. Transformers all appear to be original. That's fine. Let's get this thing over on the bench then. In fact, what I really should do is get some baselines for it. So let's stick the valves in it. Let's fire it up on the test bench and just get some baseline measurements. Right, different angle for you today. You've still got the overhead cam so you can see what's going on. Up on the test bench, at idle, no signal running through. It's pulling 75 watts out of the wall. I have installed his... Well, there was two sets of 6v6s, and I don't think he said which way round they were in terms of which were the originals and which were which. But I assume he's got a set of tad red bases and he's got a set of groove tubes. So I would assume the groove tubes are the originals. Anyway, we've got the tads in. They are currently biased at about 18, 19 milliamps per side, about 8-ish watts. So on the slightly cool side, but that might not be a bad thing. Quick note on preamp valves on the AB763s, whether that's the deluxe reverb, Vibrolux, super reverb, twin reverb, whatever. The valve lineup is always the same. And there's 6 preamp valves and you split them in half, 1 to 3 and 4 to 6, and it's a repeating pattern. So it goes 12AX7, 12AX7, 12AT7, so XXT, and then it does that thing again. So V4, AX7, V5, AX7, V6, AT7. So you go XXT, XXT. Why does that matter? Well, it doesn't, but diagnostically, if you've got a noisy valve, it's really easy because you know you can just swap 3 and 6. So if you need to swap those around to see if anything changes in terms of noise or whatever. Same with V2 and V5, same with V1 and V4. Okay, so you've already got replacements there in the amp that you can just do a straight swap and know everything else is going to run the same just for diagnostic purposes. So it's really easy to remember. XXT, XXT. All right, and that's the same in all of the AB763s. So I always found that really useful. You know, if you think your reverb driver V3 is playing up, well, you've got another one in V6. Just swap them round. See if it makes a difference. And don't think, well, what if it causes a problem in the amp? Well, if it's already faulty and it's in the amp, then you're already in that position anyway. It doesn't matter. Right, gotcha? Cool. Okay, we're up and running. We are warmed up. There's actually more heat coming off this than there is out the heater in the workshop at the moment. It's very cold. Okay, so what I want to do first is let's start with the normal channel. I've got a second microphone on the bench cab, and we'll just start with the volume control on the amp. We'll turn it up full. Okay, so we do have some rustling and some noises coming from both the volume and the treble control on the normal channel. We'll move on to the second channel. We'll do the same. Same again on that channel. Both the volume and the treble they're not noise free. It's a fair way of putting it. There is some rustling going on, a bit of crackling. You'll notice that there's more hiss on this channel than there is on this channel, and that's just the bright cap. That's just having that bright cap in there, allowing those upper frequencies to pass, gives you more of that top end hiss. So don't worry about that thinking it's a problem, it's just the way the circuit is. Now, remember the customer has asked me to remove the bright cap on that channel, so when we pull the front board out, do that. So let's go volume up 10, all those controls on 10, turn those down. Let's try the reverb. Not making much difference. Let's just double check we've got our tank connections the right way round. Slightly noisy, but not unusable, especially when it's turned all the way up. The other thing we need to check is the tremolo, which I will need the foot switch for. I'm going to be honest with you, even though I've increased the gain on the video so you can hear it more clearly, this is nowhere near as bad as I've heard before. It's pretty normal. Obviously, we'll try and reduce it further for the customer, you know, make it as good as we can, but that's not bad at all. I've heard very horrendous thumps and things from the tremolo and reverb circuits on these. This one's not bad at all. I'm not... If it was mine, I wouldn't bother, to be honest with you. It wouldn't annoy me at all. But, you know, every customer is different and every customer is valid, so that's fine. Right, let's get a signal running through the amplifier. We'll start with the normal channel. Signal running through 150 millivolt, 1 kilohertz sine wave into the front end of the amplifier. And let's go. Okay, so treble and bass are currently on 0 or fully counterclockwise. So we've got a little bit of clipping there. We'll back it back down so it looks round. Find the nice spot there. We're into 8 ohms. We're looking at this figure down here, 14 volts. Now 14 volts into 8 ohms. If we look on my little chart up here, there's 8 ohms. Come down to 14. 24.5 watts. Lovely. So these are rated at 22, which, so 13 volts will put us at 21 watts, 13.5 will put us at 22.8. So we're looking somewhere between 13 and 13.5. If we come back here, 13.2, we've got a lovely clean sine wave there. Very nice. So we know at the current bias point of the amplifier, with the current voltages that it's running, it's perfectly capable of putting out its stated output into 8 ohms. So I have no concerns about the fundamental operation of the output stage, including the phase inverter, of this particular amplifier. Okay, we'll just switch across to the bright channel. I'm into the high input, by the way, on both channels. Same test again, treble and bass as low as they go, advance our signal, find our clipping point, so we're squaring off there, back it back down. You see how the bottom half is more square than the top. So that it's slight asymmetrical clipping there. We'll bring it back down till they both look clean. Well, there's our 14 volts again. Drop it down to 13.2. There you go. Just so you know, the way it works, try and do it on here. It's voltage squared, 13.2 times 13.2, divided by your load at 8 ohms. So that's 21.78 watts. So we'll call it 22. That's lovely. So I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that. I have no fundamental concerns with the amplifier so far. To be honest with you, I don't particularly think it's that noisy. I don't think... No, let's be fair about this. Let's be fair about this. The customer's bought it to me because he wants me to make it better than it is. And that's irrelevant of where the starting point is. It just so happens that, in my opinion, we're already at a really good starting point. So to get it to the next stage is going to require less effort than it would if we were starting all the way down here and having to make big steps. We've already got a good, strong starting point. So it might be a good thing. But I'm still going to do everything on his list. Again, because he's asking not just to get it noise-free, he wants it to be reliable for the next decade or so. And I think that's a really smart thing to do. And actually, he does say, and be a bit quieter whilst doing it. I think we can do that, no problem whatsoever. So let's discharge the amplifier, let it cool down, get it over on the build bench. And whilst we're doing some work on it, let's do the Q&A. Right, Q&A time. Quite a few things to get through, but I'm going to start with the electrolytic recap on this amp. Now, I'll film this handheld, so I do apologise if it's a bit shaky. But on this board, you've got, obviously you can see these things are hot glued in place. The 6 wires that come from the board through the grommet hole, through to the chassis, they are hot glued in place as well. Hopefully that focuses, you can see there. And most of those go directly to the main PCB inside the chassis. So removing this board entirely is difficult. So what I'm going to do is just remove the 4 mounting screws, flip this thing up, unsolder from the underside, and redo the board in situ. Obviously, I'd like to get it out from the chassis, but that often that can cause more problems than you would like. So we're not going to do that. We're going to do it that way. Anyway, so starting with regular commenter Russ Betts. Welcome back, Russ. I've enjoyed your comments recently, so keep them up. They are great. He says, hi, Chris. That takes me back to my early days of electronics. The Heathkit condenser checker is clearly showing its age. Yeah, that's an old piece of tech right there, but it still works great, especially as a go, no-go on checks like that. It's fantastic. And it doesn't take long to warm up, 15 seconds. And as I showed in that video, when testing that cap, it's surprisingly consistent. So there you go. So today's question is, when did condensers become known as capacitors? Okay, that's a really interesting one. So it started a lot earlier than you think. A lot earlier than you think. They'd already started using the term capacitor over condenser in the 1920s. Or, you know, that far back again. It was, I wrote some notes on this actually. So they used to call them condensers because it came from the idea that it condensed electrical charge, right? But over time, they started to change things. Now, by the time the Institute of Electrical Engineers was officially founded, which was 1962, they'd already officially adopted capacitor at that point. But, you know, by that time, you've already got 50 odd years, 40, 50 odd years of people using condenser, either officially or unofficially. And so there's always that crossover period. You still get it today. People don't want to use the new terms. They want to stick with the old terms for stuff. But apparently there are some old technical papers in the UK as far back as 1910, academic papers that show capacitor being used instead of condenser. But, you know, names stick around for a lot longer than they were officially adopted for. I guess it's a generational thing, maybe. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, so when the Institute of Electrical Engineering, 1962 or 1963, came in, they'd already defined and confirmed that the term they're using for that component was capacitor and not condenser. But for a long time, condenser was still used, even though industry had adopted capacitor as an official thing. Right, okay, moving on. Hope that helps. Second question, do you talk to yourself when you are not filming content? Living alone, I talk to myself all the time, especially when I'm concentrating on a job. Do you know what? No, I don't. And I know some of you won't believe that because I come across as though I can talk for hours. I'm actually the opposite. I love to work in silence on my own. I love to have my thoughts running. Often when I'm driving in the car, I don't have the radio on, because I use thinking time as a way of processing the world around me and thinking about things and just working my way through life and all that kind of stuff. And so I rarely talk to myself. I'm often working in silence. It's what I prefer to do because I love to have my brain going, you know, just, as I said, processing the world around me. Downside of that is that when I started filming, I wasn't very good at it. I wasn't very good at talking. And originally I used to write out scripts and try and read those out on camera, but that came out as very robotic. So I've actually taught myself just through practice. Human body's great for this, by the way. It's very good at adapting to what you do. So if you do something regularly enough, naturally you become better at it. And so I just learnt to talk on camera. I now no longer think about what I'm going to say. I just open my mouth and it comes out. So I don't plan any of it. So for this segment, for example, all I've done is I've read your question out and I've just started talking, whatever's up here. In the edit, if I do lots of joining phrases such as so, like, yeah, that kind of stuff, often I chop a lot of those out. So if you ever see jump cuts in my edits, it's because I've just been doing a lot of those and I'm working on getting rid of those. That's a very difficult thing to remove from your natural speech pattern, because it's a natural pause where your brain is working or catching up or thinking ahead or whatever. And professional TV presenters work on it a lot, especially sports commentators. Apparently, it's something they really work on, is to not do the ums and the ahs. I'm not a professional presenter or commentator or anything like that. I'm just a bloke on the internet filming what he's doing at work. Right? So I'm not very good at it, but the more I do it, the better I will become. But no, if you go back and watch very early riff videos, I actually find it quite painful to watch, but I had to go through that process to be able to waffle on for 6.5, 7 minutes in a single stream without running out of things to say, you know. So there we go. Also, I've done this before on the channel. I'm talking to a camera right now. And it feels very natural, both for me doing it, because I've worked on it, it's become natural for me, but for you, it's like we're having a conversation face to face. If I placed another camera here and filmed me talking to a camera on my own, it looks very bizarre, very weird indeed. So it's camera trickery, it's YouTube. The trick I'm always told, and I've said this before, is don't think that you're talking to a load of people, you're talking to one person, and that's how you talk and phrase yourself and just go with it. That doesn't work for me. I have to think I'm talking to one particular person. And so whenever I'm talking to camera, I'm talking to one particular customer in my mind, and I'm explaining and talking to that person. So that's what I'm doing right now. I am talking to one particular person that I know. I'm thinking of that person in my head, and I'm talking to them and explaining it. I'm not thinking about talking to thousands of people who are watching the video. It's one particular customer I have in mind, good customer of mine, and that's how I approach this task of talking to camera. So hopefully that explains everything. Very, very cool. Yeah, thanks for your questions, Russ. I always appreciate you tuning in and watching. Catch you at the next one. The Hairy Gecko channel member says, fabulous couple of videos talking about Alan's amps here. Thank you, Chris and Alan. Extremely useful to see how you troubleshoot a startup of a new home-built build. I'm about to start my 4th kit, and I too try and make each one a little better than the last. It's exactly the way it should be. Yeah, absolutely the way it should be. So congratulations on your builds. I'm sure they're great. You know, you have to make mistakes to learn, or at least I do anyway. and you will improve every one you do along, and enjoy it. Enjoy it. You know, the first couple of amps I ever built, I really enjoyed, and then I went through a phase of them feeling like a bit of a chore, and I didn't enjoy it for a short amount of time, but now I do. Once I improved my workflow and worked out how to not only build these things to a higher standard, quicker, but also improving the quality of them. And now my workflow and the process I use to build an amplifier is pretty much down. We're doing it long enough now. I just enjoy every build. I love them. There's no part of an amplifier build that I don't look forward to anymore. I enjoy every process because I continually work on them and find better ways to do them, because that's the way it should be. So yeah, well done, Gecko, mate. I really appreciate the comment. Keep going with it. Another regular commenter, Southside Johnny, says... Let me get this right. Hi, Chris. Not sure if they were at NAMM, but have you seen the new Standard 25 from Decilla Amps? Uses a single KT150 with a reconfigurable auto bias system, which allowed for 25, 10 and 4 watt output. Saw a couple of reviews on YouTube. Interesting? Well, yes, I saw when he first launched them, was it last year? I saw them and I laughed. And I didn't laugh because I'm not laughing at him. I'm laughing because I built a couple of single-ended KT150 Princeton Reverb style amps many years ago. And those valves, the 120 and the 150, they're hi-fi valves, right? And they are incredibly sensitive to noise, vibration, and they can be quite microphonic. And I really struggled in a combo to stop those things rattling themselves and causing problems. I think I built 2 with the 120s and 1 with the 150, and they're incredibly difficult to keep those things noise-free. If you've ever struggled with the EF86s, imagine that, but 10 times worse, right? They're incredibly difficult. I laughed because I knew that chap would have gone through the same troubles that I did, right? Incredibly tricky. It's just the worst, right? Just the worst. But he's managed to make it work. I mean, I think he is a qualified electrical engineer. The chassis shots show a PCB design that looks to be very well, not only designed, but manufactured as well. He's got rubber dampening rings around that output valve, and it seems to be working for him, and great. Would I want to do those again? No, I saw no particular tonal benefit over doing that, over just doing, a pair of 6v6s really well, or 6L6s, right? I'm not being rude to the guy, absolutely not, but it feels like doing something different for the sake of being different rather than being a true tonal benefit. That's my thoughts on it. But I mean, it's cool, it's great, and it's wonderful that we've got a new boutique brand doing cool stuff, but it's... Yeah, I don't know, to be honest with you. It's those valves are very expensive to replace. As I said, it's very difficult to keep the noise free, especially in a combo. If they were heads, different ball game, right? But in a combo, you might argue you're building yourself into a corner. But I certainly couldn't get it to a point where I could make it commercially viable. Because, in 6 months, 12 months' time, as the valves wear, the cabinet's vibrating in a different way now. The speaker's doing a different thing once it's broken in. Incredibly tricky. But fair play to the chap. He seems to, know what he's doing. He's a clever boy. He's got a lovely design. He could have got a very similar thing with a single KT88. But, the USP of that amp is he's using these big egg-shaped valves, right? So... it is what it is. And fair play to him. I'm not knocking it. I just know how difficult it is. 25 watts, you can do that with, a pair of 6L6s, run very conservatively, so they'll last forever, So that's kind of my thoughts on it. And then also you haven't got a tackle, single-ended hum, and the extra expense that comes with that. So, yeah, but that's it. It's cool. They are cool. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying it's a very tricky thing to do. And I can't imagine that there's it's different enough tonally with any other upsides you'd want from it over your standard setups, which is why those standard setups exist, you know. And if you ask yourself the question, and I'm being polite here, not being rude, doing something different for the sake of being different, or is it doing something different because there's a genuine tonal advantage there? Johnny Gibbons says, clickbait title, talking about the JTM 45 video. I just thought Mrs. Rifford told you off and you were grumpy. No, but she did find out about the toothbrush and was not impressed. Right, off she goes, new engine. Get that done. See it in a couple of weeks. Very happy. Right, it's freezing out here. Let's get back inside. Well, you can tell I'm still traumatised by that Prosonic filter board, but I decided actually to remove this from the chassis. The 6 wires, I mean, they're all labelled on the board so you know where they go, and of course I've taken photos, but the solder on this must be a single blend because it's beautiful. It really is. I mean, they just unsoldered straight away. So now I can work on this properly on the bench, recap it correctly. I'm going to test the droppers as well, make sure they're on spec. If they're not, we'll put new ones in. That 100k there, I'll have to look at the schematic because I can't remember off the top of my head what it's doing, R65, but that might be one that we upgrade to. It's only a half watt, we might have to put a 1 watt in there. I'll see. I'll do some sums and work it all out. But they're all going to come off, remove the hot glue, do it properly. Yeah, so anyway, Richard Halstead, regular commenter, welcome back, mate, says, hi, Chris. Great experiment with the clickbait, but very sad that some people can't see the funny side. No one knows why the amp ended up at the tip, but the positive side is it was saved. It's just the internet, mate. You put something out there. Danish Pete said to me once, because obviously, you know, he's quite big on YouTube now, has quite a big following. He said it's roughly a 4-to-1 ratio. For every one person that likes what you're doing, there are 4 people who hate it. And that's just YouTube. And you just, you know, you've got to be thick-skinned enough to deal with it. And that's fine. I did find it funny, but also it's a bit sad, isn't it? It's a bit depressing, but you know, that's the internet. It is what it is. In regards to the Marshall, no one knows why the amp ended up at the tip. Well, there was a time where old Marshalls weren't worth much. You know, it could have been sat up in somebody's attic or loft or wherever for a long time. House clear out, old guitar amp. Nobody wants it. You know, people don't want to go through the process of selling stuff. They might be in a rush to do a house clearance or whatever, and it just gets taken to the tip. Speaking of which, lots and lots of people asked about why we use the word tip and not dump. It's from an old English phrase, coal tip, meaning a pile or heap of rubbish. You might also think of it as like, you know, a truck tipping its load into a waste, but it's just what we call the dump, the tip. It's a British phrase, English phrase. But for all the Americans who watch this channel, who, by the way, are now the biggest demographic on the channel, the majority of my viewers are in North America. So welcome to everyone. I'm Chris. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, we use the word tip. It's just one of those things. But thank you to everyone who commented and asked. Yeah, dump, tip, whatever. It's the trash place. Watkins Copycat, again, another regular commenter, says, might just be my eyes or maybe the lighting, but does that chassis have a bit of a dent in it at 29 minutes and 30 seconds? Well, do you know what, mate? Your eyesight is much better than mine is, because to the naked eye, you can't really see it, but you're right, in the footage, you could see, at certain lighting conditions, there's a slight bend or dent in that chassis. So thank you for pointing that out, but you can't see it in person. It's really strange, but obviously I can't send that to a customer, so I've got some more on order. That one will become a demo one for me, I guess. But yeah, thanks for pointing that out. It's amazing what cameras pick up, isn't it? It's 4K content now is amazing. Aquila Rossa says, I've always wondered, with valve testing services, what happens to the duds? Do they send them back, and can they even do that? Yes. So I have accounts with all of the major distributors, but also manufacturers as well. So I can order directly from JJ as a manufacturer. For example, I can order directly from the factory. And for example, I might order, let's say I order 50 6v6s. And if you do that, they come ungraded, untested. They just send you 50 of them, or however many you choose to order. And it's up to me to grade them and test them. And that's why all these resellers do that, because it's up to them. Any which are dead out the box or faulty or can't be matched, you can just send them back. You can send them back and they'll send you some more, and the process just keeps going like that until you end up with what you got. It's quite expensive to do that, and if you're not doing the big numbers, you know, let's face it, yes, I'm a manufacturer, and yes, I'm a repair shop. I'm probably buying more than you at home are, but nowhere near as some of the bigger manufacturers, the bigger resellers. And it does become a bit of a nightmare. I started moving away from that. Rather than ordering direct from the factory, you know, started going to the resellers and ordering their match stuff. But then, as you know, I explained and demonstrated, they're not all the same. So, you know, I can send stuff back to whoever, say these aren't good enough, this one's faulty, this one's not, or whatever, and they have to replace it. But having used all the ones and been through that process many, many times, you get fed up to a point where you just I want to know that if I ring up a supplier and say, look, I need 5 matched pairs of 6v6s, I want to know that every single one that comes through is perfectly matched, is going to be noise-free, isn't going to cause any problems, and if there is, there's a no quibble. You know, I want the same as a consumer, right? Because it's just a faff. And it costs me money if there's ever a problem, just like it costs them, just like whatever. So now I just use Stuart. He's great. He's fantastic. I'm not going through the faff with anything else anymore. It's just quicker and easier. And actually, it is cheaper in the long run to spend a little bit more money up front. It saves you money in the long run, which, you know, is what you want. It keeps your customers happy. And it means I'm not... You know, for example, I sent back... I remember once I ordered... It was EL84s. I ordered loads, absolutely loads of them. And I think my return rate was well over 60% on them. They just couldn't get them noise-free or matched or whatever. And it just delays stuff at that point. So, you know, outsource it now to someone who's really good. And that's the thing. So, yeah, you can send them back. And people do. But you also go to say, experience and not exactly trusting every person in the world, it's made me wary of cut price valves from random sellers on eBay. Well, I mean, that's eBay though, isn't it? In Amazon, if it's too cheap, there's a reason for that, you know. That in turn is good for business at a valve testing place, because it's all I trust these days too. Yeah, exactly that, you know. It's just spend a couple of extra quid or dollars, a reputable supplier with a good testing service who stand behind what they do. It's worth every penny. Hakon says, he's a channel member, by the way. Great vid. I'm working on my next project, sort of an AA864, but using 6v6s. Now, that is a great build to do. You know, a low power basement. Up until now, I have opted to run 6v6s at around 380 to 390 volts. But since I'm going for that bigger Fender clean thing, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on raising the plate voltage above 400 volts DC? Does it improve bass reproduction, for instance? You've only got to look at the Deluxe Reverb, which runs 6v6, is well over 400 volts. The bottom end on that is not exactly what you might call firm, is it? It's a bit spongy, a bit flubby, especially when overdriven. That's not down to the voltage, though. That's down to the impedance of the output transformer. It's a 6K6 roughly, which is not optimal for 6v6s at those voltages. If you double it to around 12, 13K, the bottom end is perfectly tight and wonderful. Alternatively, in a Deluxe Reverb, stick a set of 6L6s in, bias accordingly, you get a wonderful bottom end. Voltages, assuming you've got the correct output impedance, or load on your output valves, should I say, can help, but think with the bottom end, but think of it more as allowing the bottom end to punch harder, so you get faster transient in it, and that then tricks your ears into thinking it's a it's a tighter, firmer bottom end rather than it actually being. The bottom end bandwidth, you know, whether it's a tight curve or a big broad one, again, might remain the same, but it's how that bottom end is being transferred to the air around you. Try it. I assume then you're going to be running a valve rectifier with that. So one thing you might do is, rather than a GZ34, try a 5V4. Still a 2 amp, well 1.9, but 2 amp 5 volt rectifier, but you do get more voltage drop. So compare the two and you'll be able to hear the difference. But yeah, also let me know what output impedance you're going for. Trust me, try doubling the output impedance for 6V6s. Wonderful things happen when you do that. So yeah, get a deluxe reverb output transformer. Rather than using an 8 ohm speaker onto the 8 ohm tap, run the 8 ohm speaker onto a 4 ohm tap, double the impedance, you'll be amazed. Right, also, unless Fender decided to spend some money on good solder, the solder on this board is not lead free. This is leaded solder, absolutely. You can just tell by the way it looks and the way it flows and the way it moves. So I doubt they've spent money on some really expensive lead-free solder. There's no way, absolutely no way. This is leaded solder in this. Naughty, naughty. J. August says, as a North American subscriber, I can say in my case it's your format that gets me watching. Well, that's good to know, because as you know, it's my format that I do differently to everyone else. Also, the variety of work you show, brands, vintages, builds, etc., keeps it fresh. Thank you for the quality content. Well, I'll let you in on a secret. It's pretty easy. I don't have to plan any video. All I do is show off what comes through the door and what I'm up to every day. It kind of makes itself. I just edit it down so it doesn't look terrible. But thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm glad to know that my videos are reaching far and wide. I know I've got subscribers all over the world now, which does feel a little bit insane. But then again, I do have customers all over the world. So there you go. I appreciate that, mate. Thanks for watching. Caps are off, just removing the glue. I said I wasn't going to do this again, but you know, is what it is. Anyway, Thomas says, enjoying the video whilst holding an MOD 102 that I found at an electronic parts outlet in Houston. It was assembled wrong, and although they marked pin 1 on V2, they went around in the wrong direction. Yeah, that's a common beginner mistake. That was just the start, so I'm ordering new components and extras for the mods to upgrade it to a MOD 102 Plus. These videos inspire me, and I'm finally stepping out on a dream to build a tube amp. I'm planning on ordering a 5F1 kit after I get this first order placed, because I'll be ordering parts for that kit so I can tinker with mods on it. Right, brilliant comment. Thank you for watching. My top tip for you is do not build a 5F1 from the beginning. Or if you do, don't build it in the original chassis. They are so small, so short, very fiddly to get your hands in. My recommendation is go for one of the wider ones, such as a 5E3 or a 5F2. The 5F1, it's a very small chassis, very difficult to work in. Yes, there's not a lot of components, not a lot of wires, but there's not a lot of space. And it's very, very fiddly. So just because it's a simple amp doesn't mean it's an easy amp to build. And you will be banging your head against the wall on a regular basis should you carry on, or should you try and build one of those from the beginning. If you can build one into a larger chassis in a different format, feel free, but those 5F1 chassis, I say this to beginner builders all the time, they're not as easy as they look. But if you are going to go for it, good luck to you. Take your time, think ahead, watch a load of build videos on the internet, see how it's done, try and plan what you're doing. But it's very easy to build yourself into a corner and get frustrated, because if you miss some of those wires off when it would have been easy to do them, trying to do them later on once you've got other stuff in the way is rubbish. It ruins your day. It really does. So yeah, that's my top tip. 5F1s, not your first build. Right, let's get this board back in then. I don't need to upgrade that 100k. By the way, it's adequately rated. So we'll get this wired in, and then fingers crossed we haven't made a mistake, which I know we haven't, but you know, always double check your work. Then we can move on to the next thing. And I need to make a plan. Plan of attack. So that's brown, and then next is black. Be a lot easier if these pads were on the top side. But here we are. Right. Is that bonded? Yep. Next one is green. Right. Yellow's next. I'm trying to get as much done before my holiday, but what I don't want to do is start any big projects that then I'll have to stop halfway through while I'm away, because then you just lose your train of thought. So I am hoping, or at least, you know, any big projects I need to get to a point that kind of makes sense in terms of a stopping point. So I need to reach, you know, a certain milestone in that job, which is why I haven't carried on with the Ampeg, the VT40 that was on the Christmas special, because one, I haven't really reached it in the queue yet, but two, also that might be quite in depth. And as Forgotten Gear Restorations is currently proving with his V4B repair job, things can go from easy to complex and in depth very, very quickly. I don't want to be in a situation like that and then having to stop whilst to go on holiday. Hope that makes sense. Hope you understand. Right, we're nearly done with this. So yeah, I hope all that makes sense. I've also got the... Oh, what amp is it? The one we're doing the baffle for. The Louis Electric, that's it. I'm hoping that that baffle comes back to me this week. We had a new baffle made in the correct thickness, by the way. That's what we went for. So we can get that. Hopefully that comes back. We've got the correct grill cloth as well. I managed to get a really good match. So that hopefully should come back to me this week. We can then get that reinstalled in the cab, so the customer can have that back. That's a good thing to get done. The Americana LP, waiting on the cabinet to arrive here. When it does, we've got a lack of the tweed. Now that's an interesting one because we've got to get the right shade. The problem with lacquering tweed is it darkens with time. So you have to go kind of half a step lighter than you want it to be, because over a week or so there is a further darkening of it. So you kind of just have to bear that in mind. That transformer's a bit... No, that's all right. Okay, so yeah, we've got that as well to do. Zilla is... I'm waiting on a combo shell from Zilla to get an Ainsley SIG out the door, and I need to get another chassis built, tested, so Ainsley can sign it off before I go on holiday. So we've got that to do as well. And I'm just trying to get all my currently outstanding jobs to nice finishing points or milestones. Anyway, so that's the boarding. Flip it over now. And now we can start to make a plan of attack. So where's his list gone? Here's his list. His name's not on there. No, replace filter caps. Tick. Move heater wires from quick connects to valve sockets. The heater wires are on the valve sockets. I'll go back to him and double check, just in case he's got himself confused. Do you think he means the... Well, what does he mean? Question mark. Move relevant resistors from boards to sockets. Output valve. So he wants his screen resistors. Okay, yeah. And his grid, his 1K5s over here. Can you actually see on this what I'm pointing at? Probably not. Let's move you around here. Move relevant resistors from boards to sockets. So for the output valves, we've got our 470k screen stoppers and our grid stoppers as well. He wants those moved to the sockets. I assume we want some some backup diodes on his rectifier socket too. What else? Where's pins? Pin 1 is that yellow there. So they go to probably a ground trace on there. There are no 1 ohms there. Okay, so we can do that. Upgrade vibrato channel path volume path to shielded wires, replace this through the board. So vibrato channel, this one. So we've got the output from the volume pot here. Again, can you see what I'm... So this is the trace here. This one here. Come through. That'll be the bright cap across it there, behind there. So he wants that removing. And then from there, it comes down and along, comes all the way along to this connect here, underneath the board, and it will be this green wire here. Or will it be this one here? I can't remember. Either way, he wants all of that replacing with shielded wire. So I am going to have to pull the front board out to make that permanent. So how do I, if it comes along here, oh, which one is it? I've lost it. There, up and over, down, that one. That's the pin. So what would be the best way to do that? Would it be unsolder that ribbon connector? That's a ground plane there, so I could tap my signal off there. It's coming from here. Have the other end of my shielded there. Run the flying lead over. But then how do I stop a copy of it coming through this way? Well, oh, I can just unsolder that, can't I? That's easy enough. Okay. Remove the bright cap. Well, we do that at the same time. Right. But let's go back a bit. I need to trace out, because I can't remember on this. Our screens come from... is the orange wires. No, it's this green wire, isn't it? 1, 2, 3. 4 is orange, that's right. So that one must go there. And this one must go here. So they must be joined together at this side. I'm going to have to pull the board out anyway to move those over to the sockets. But that's easy enough though, because all I've got to do is, if I'm rewiring the sockets, I can just undo all of this. Heater's off. Tell you what, the heater wires coming from the transformer, they're not very thick gauge, are they? Yeah, push you out of the way for the time being. Oh no, they come from... So that's to feed up to the dual light. So where else? Oh, I see what he means, yes. So the feed comes from the board here, heaters. So these will be connected to, it'll be these ones here, won't it? So he wants these soldering directly to the sockets. Fine, we can do that. That's easy enough. Gavin, I understand. I'm with you. Don't worry. The solder on these sockets is not the same as the solder on that filter board. So what he wants is, rather than the heater traces going to the board, so the heater wires going to the board, along the board and then out through these wires, he wants me to connect them direct. We can do that. No problem. Let's get these off. I want the screen stoppers and the grid stoppers directly on the sockets. Again, we can do that. Which way round do they go though? So they are sided like that. Okay. If I lightly twist those together just so they don't get lost. Okay, and he's got, oh, the pin 8s, the yellows. Yeah, we said that earlier, didn't we? So let's go. Anyway, I'm going to carry on. I'll rewire the sockets, then I'll pull the board, remove the components from the board, and do it all properly that way. I think that's a good way of doing it. And then we'll carry on making decisions from there. Well, I don't do everything perfectly. I did, unfortunately, make a bit of a mistake on this Ainsley Sig chassis that I was just drilling and punching. I was drilling out the dual light hole, that one there, and I went one step too large on my step drill bit. Obviously, I can't give this to a customer. No good, but it is B stock, so I can use it for my own stuff, my own demo stuff, which is fine. So what I've done, I've never actually done this before, but I thought it'd be interesting to try, is I got one of my aluminium square offcuts. I drilled a pilot hole through it, enlarged it to the right size, and I have bonded it to the chassis from the inside like a repair patch. So on the outside, it's fine. It's now the correct hole going through the chassis, and that'll be fine for my own stuff. Obviously, I could never send that and use that in a customer build. Absolutely not. Which is a bit frustrating because now I've got to drill and punch another chassis, but yeah, just went one too many steps on the step drill bit. But I saw someone else do this online, and I thought I'd give it a go to see how it works. I mean, it doesn't look pretty, absolutely not. So it's not saleable, as I said. But for my own build, because I do need an updated signature demo anyway, it kind of works. And I bonded it to the chassis with red Loctite, which actually worked quite well. So there you go. On a more positive note, however, for 2026, I decided to make a slight change to my foot switches. They used to be bare alley, screen printed with black text, and then quite a few years ago I changed to a cream pedal with brown text. Well, I decided to bring them more in line with my Elysium pedal. This one here, black with white text, quite simple, quite a classy design. So I've decided with my foot switches for amps to go with a similar look. So that's the single one for the reverb on things like Ainsley Sig and Americana, stuff like that. And then the 2-button switch for tremolo and reverb for the PR range, stuff like that. That's what I do. Bright Onion does these for me. He's very, very good. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Why don't you make them yourselves? It's just easier. It's just easier to email through and say 5 of these, whatever. And he doesn't charge me extra for colour changes. So yeah, I think they look pretty good now. So if you were to have both of those on your board, how good would that look, right? So yeah, Elysium fuzz and Rift foot switch for your amp. I get closer and closer to the camera every time I do this. Well, that's it then, guys. Thank you very much for watching once again. As always, please give this video a thumbs up. All of your comments and questions down below. Subscribe, hit the notification bell if you haven't already. If you're feeling generous, why not buy a t-shirt, order an amp, or just join the channel, and I hope we'll catch you all at the next one. Well, we don't see many of those every day in the UK. Right, Mrs. Rift has dragged me out on a Sunday to go around old bookshops and places like that. Anyway, we've come to this place. It's called The Depot. Probably an old military place, I would have thought. And it looks like there was a car meet going on this morning, so I must have missed that. A couple of cars leaving, including that DeLorean, which amazing, rarely see those. Anyway, just behind me you can see it. I think it's like a Honda repair shop or something, but loads of really cool old Hondas. I've not seen one of those Preludes in a very long time. That's cool. An old CRX behind it, S2000. That's an Accord that they've probably taken the K20 out of, or K24 I guess, whatever they do. Old EG there, S2000. Very cool place. I must look up the history of this place because it's very cool. Anyway, yeah, DeLorean was cool, but I'm very bored. She's book shopping. But yeah, this place is about 10-15 minutes north of Silverstone, and there's all businesses in these buildings, renting them out, doing all sorts. There we go, and I haven't seen a proper mallard duck like that in a very long time. There he is, look, Ekington.